Let's see. Hi, everybody. My name is Tara Stevenson, and I serve as the Dean of Student Engagement and Career Development here at Flagler College. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us again. We're coming to you live on the Career Development Center's Facebook page, on the Flagler College Student Life and Activities page, Flagler College YouTube channel, and our Career Development Center Instagram. Today we're going to be talking about job and internship searching, and what a time. I know that this is, again, something that is so overwhelming and can be very stressful right now, and we don't want it to be that way whatsoever. And so any kind of assistance or any sort of way that we can help alleviate some of these nerves, I absolutely hope that we get to accomplish something like that today. And as always, if you'd like to talk a little bit more about this, or we can do anything else to help you kind of map out some things, please let us know. But thank you for joining me. I'm actually working from home today, and so it's a very plain background here. If you're on Instagram, you can see my desk a little bit, so I feel very, very official. But we're gonna keep it laid back and keep it informal as we always do. As I always do, try to mention, if you have any questions, whether it's on Instagram, I'll be monitoring those, or whether it's through our Facebook or YouTube channels, please feel free to type them in. I do like when people get to toss in questions. I'll try to put them up on the screen so everybody else can see them as well, and then we can talk through them. But at any time, just like we do with any in-person workshop, feel free to interrupt. I'm going to hopefully be watching them, but I want you to be able to ask those questions, ask those tough questions, and let's try to have maybe more of an open dialogue where we can be a bit more comfortable about it. But I do have my notes that I always do like to kind of look at. My other note that I always put on is, don't let me forget co-curricular credit. It's always so exciting to me when I get to see who's joining us live, but then also who's watched the recording later on and has sent in the co-curricular credit. So I want to say a big, huge thank you to you all. It's hopefully you're getting something from these every single week, because I appreciate that your time that you're spending here with us. So when we're thinking about job and internship searching, I want to make sure that we know we're going to go over some basic things for when we're not in a pandemic that I think are important to consider at any point. But then we'll also look at some tips during COVID, as well as some information I found really fascinating is mistakes that we're making during COVID and how we can avoid those mistakes. When I did this workshop back in April, of course, when everything kind of hit and we were faced with a lot of different challenges, I had found an amazing article that outlined different industries that were hiring during this. And so I will highlight those as well. Of course, during any time, things can be changing, but I feel like they're still very pertinent and good to cover. But when you're thinking about job searching and internship searching, there's so many different factors for you to consider. There's so many different things that I want you to think about that are both personal and professional. The first thing, and these might seem a little bit silly, but there's a fun activity that our previous team member used to do, was called a career mash, and thinking about what are these different things that we would want out of our job or out of different things later on. So where would your office be located? Where would you want your office to be located? I know that sounds kind of silly, but I do think that it's important to think about. Do you thrive at a desk? Do you not thrive at a desk? Do you thrive in a cubicle setting? Do you not thrive in a cubicle setting? Those environmental work settings and what they look like, it sounds so inconsequential right now, but that's what drives your productivity. I know for myself, if I didn't have that interaction with people where my office was located in a central part on campus, that would be super tough for me to get my job done, but also to have me keep doing my job every day, because that's what I thrive on and that's when I'm most successful. How would you get to work? I know many of us think about that we'd love to work in a big city. And so then what does travel look like to and from that city? Is it public transportation? Is it an Uber ride? I know I've had a colleague who we would arrive around the same time and she would be arriving in her Uber ride and I would have just been parking. What does that travel look like? I have another colleague who regularly rides their bike. And if they don't ride their bike, then maybe they're walking. If it's raining, what does that look like? Again, these are all so teeny tiny little things, but they're important to think about when you're searching. They're also important to think about because what's the weight of them? Is it important that you have public transportation for work and that you're not driving yourself? And so that would really zero in on what those search techniques look like for the positions. How much money would you desire to make? Always, always, always a fun and interesting discussion because you'll have the people that have a minimum that they need to make. You'll have those individuals that are looking at what is the industry paying and is there a range that I'm okay in? You'll have those that have debt and things that they have to pay throughout things. And so they're thinking, what is my cost of living? And then what are my bills? And what does that debt look like? And so then all of a sudden, how much do I hope to make? I want you to also think about what's reasonable. Think about your industry. I joke with people all the time. I'm in education because I love it. I know that I'm not going to be a millionaire in education, but I'm okay with that. And so that's something that I always keep in mind when I am looking for different jobs and they are maybe posting a salary range or an hourly range. Is that something that's going to be okay for me and my family? What time would you wake up in the morning? How many of us are morning people? I might be one of those, weird ones. I fully admit it. I'm a morning person. And so I do my best work when it's earlier in the morning. And then as the day goes on, as those in my student activities team will attest to, if we have late night events, I am there. I am just maybe not at my best unless I've fully prepped for it. And so I definitely think that that's something to consider is, do you get most of your productivity done at a certain time? Does the company work with that productivity? Those that are in freelance, you get to kind of make your own schedules. And so is that conducive to what the client wants, or is it not conducive to what the client wants? I know now I'm kind of able, if the demands of my position are requiring that. Or would you like more of a strict schedule and more that's, specific every day? There is a certain expectation of when you'll be logging in and when you won't be logging in. And again, there's no right or wrong with any of these. These are all so specific. And you may be looking at the same exact position, but the way that different companies answer these or the things that you value versus another one values, it's all personalized. And keep going back to that. It's personalized and it might be different for somebody else. And then how many people would you like to work with? This is always really good to think about. Do you want a small startup company that's just a few people? What's the risk that's associated with it? And is that an exciting risk for you? Let's think about, do I want to work for a large company? I think about my husband. He works at a campus that has 4 massive buildings. And so there are thousands of people that are at his location for just his company alone. With all the COVID stuff, he's working from home because there's no way that many people would be able to come back. And he's also working in a cubicle. I myself know that would not be conducive to the type of work that I want to do. I know that for me, the kind of company that I like working with is where I get to have those relationships with people and connect with more people on a meaningful level versus connecting with a ton of people on a surface level. And so the size of Flagler fits very well for the type of job searching that I do. It's not to say that I wouldn't enjoy working for a company that has a whole lot of people or that's in a crazy busy area, but it is something to consider. Let's look at Flagler, for example. You all chose Flagler for a reason. Was it because of the city location? Was it because it was in a small city? You're close to stores. You're close to an airport. These are all other different things to consider because you could be working for a large company that has a ton of people working for it, but you're not near anything. Again, think about those factors and decisions for what you looked at and considered with Flagler. And I think a lot of those can go with your job search techniques. So we've got a few different steps to consider with job searching. So the first is I want you to know yourself, and we're going to dive a little bit more deeper into each of these as we go through. The second one is to find your industry and fit. And then the third one, of course, is that we're going to start that search. So the step one when we're looking at job searching, and I apologize, I'll probably use job internship intermixed. I feel like the tactics and the skills that we're learning today can go towards both of those, no problem. Obviously, when you're looking at internships and jobs, your timelines may be different, but the core of what we're talking about today can really go to both. So step one, I want you to ask yourself a few difficult questions. What skills do you have? Whenever we're talking about your resume, we're talking about your hard technical skills. And so do you have any skills right now? Is there an opportunity to build on those skills right now? And so that goes to the second one, is what do you want to learn? I think that's kind of interesting, because what do you want to learn right now as an applicant that could make your job search a bit more elevated? Or is it, what do you want to learn within a company or a position? What kind of advancement is there? Advancement may be important to some and it may not be important to others, and that's really okay because it's your job search technique. What do you enjoy? So it kind of goes a little bit back to the career mash that we were talking about, is connecting with lots of different clients and employees, coworkers, supervisors. What do you enjoy? Is it the opportunity to connect socially with the people that are in that company or not? On the other hand, what do you not enjoy? And that's going to be absolutely critical. As we've always said, sometimes it's a lot easier for us to say what we don't like versus what we do like. However, that process does allow for us to kind of evaluate a little bit more, because if we have this big, huge list and we're able to cross off things that we don't enjoy, that's now making things a bit more apparent for us. What makes you valuable? That's a pretty deep question if you think about it, because it's not necessarily asking you what you value, but what do you want that company to value in you? Are you looking to make an impact in the company? Are you looking to be a part of the cog that keeps them going? Both answers are correct and absolutely okay. But what is your value? Is your value that you're making a difference in that company's impact somewhere in the community or with their product? Or is your impact that you have made a difference and made a process better or brought something new for them to do? What are your non-negotiables? And this goes back again to those different questions. Are your non-negotiables that you will not work more than 40 hours a week? Are your non-negotiables that you will not work more than 60 hours a week? Are your non-negotiables that you don't want to be called on the weekends? Are your non-negotiables that you would like to be communicated to in a certain way that the company does or doesn't? These non-negotiables may seem like it's super easy to overlook them right now, especially if we're trying to job search so heavily right now. But I also don't want you to give up something that's important to you and that you're conceding to, because we are looking for something. And that's another, I guess, like heavy thing to think about is, what are your non-negotiables? What are you not okay with? And if you can articulate those, or if you're able to research into the different positions and companies, that will make you feel like you've got a handle a bit more on that job search. And then where do I want to end up? Like we talked about, is advancement important to you? It may not be important right now, and that's absolutely okay, but is that opportunity in 2 years or 5 years? You know, the one company that we regularly work with is Enterprise Holdings, so Enterprise Rent-A-Car. They are a management trainee position right off the bat. They value their employees coming in and training them and giving them the foundation. It is tough work. Right off the bat, you are working 45 to 50 hours a week, and that's the expectation as a new employee. However, they only promote from within. And so your opportunity for advancement is huge because you have to start at the bottom. The amount of graduates that go into enterprise and they start with an amazing foundation, and then probably 2 months later, I hear that they've been promoted. And then another 2 months later, they've been promoted again. And all of a sudden, this graduate, within 6 months of graduating, has been promoted twice within one company. That's awesome. Is that a part of you knowing yourself? What skills do you have? What do I want to learn? What do I enjoy? What do I not enjoy? You're obviously valuable if they're promoting you. Non-negotiables. I don't know if that meshed with some non-negotiables or not, but where do you want to end up? And for some, thinking about that now is a little bit easier, and for others, it may not be. But think about, is this company a stepping stone right now? Is this company something that is giving me a skill that I can apply to someplace else? That's also really difficult for us to wrap our minds around. I've been using Amazon customer service as a huge example during all of this. Is I know everybody is going to town on Amazon, especially since yesterday and today was Prime Day. I myself took part in that, and I am sure I will definitely have questions, as will the rest of my family, on things that I've bought. And so customer service rep is going to be huge. The ability to talk with somebody, to problem solve, to be compassionate, to manage the time so that you can get more of those complaints or assistance in, that's transferable to working at a front desk at a hotel. It's transferable to being a teacher when they're hiring and they're with their students. It's transferable to a lot of different things. And so thinking about where you want to end up and how this all plays into it could make for a really successful applicant later on. So let's go ahead and look at step 2. And so knowing what's out there. This is kind of a broader concept of how we come to the conclusions for how to job search effectively for ourselves and what techniques are going to work best. And so utilizing those different resources is going to be huge. Looking at assessments. I love our Focus 2 assessment that's on our website. It asks you your job, your values, your likes, your interests. And then after each one, it pumps out a bunch of different jobs that would be a good fit for you based off of what you've just answered. Those assessments can then kind of support the jobs that you're looking for. They could also not show anything in your assessment about a job that you were thinking about looking for. And so now all of a sudden it's making you think a bit. And that I think can be, again, very powerful because it allows for you to understand the type of position you're going for and then how you can successfully apply for it. Job shadowing opportunities, informational interviews, connecting with your professors, your peers, your Flagler alumni. Man, I feel like I'm going to say this every single workshop. The power of Flagler alumni is huge. And hopefully they're checking in with us real quick during this workshop, because I cannot stress enough that especially during this time when we are bound to our virtual world because we can't be with people in person, excuse me, the power of knowing what's out there with your alumni base. They're the ones that can help you, and they're the ones that can advocate for you. They're the ones that could offer those job shadowing or the informational interviews. They're the ones that might even start to set the path for you to be able to work with them part-time or full-time, or to do some internship experience. Or my personal favorite is you may have nothing in common with the Flagler alumni that you're connecting with. However, their best friend is doing exactly what you want to be doing. And so all of a sudden you have an inside advocate for you. Think about their clubs and community organizations. So this goes for if you're a current student or if you're a graduate joining us. What is happening on campus right now? What is virtually happening on campus? These clubs and organizations are giving you skills. They're giving you exposure to different areas and different industries. That's very, very important. Sorry about that. That was a loud car that just passed by. The community organizations, if you're involved in a faith-based organization at home or you do some volunteering with a local nonprofit, those are all people that you're connecting with. And so that's knowing more about what's out there, and that's helping in that job search. Networking, that scary word that we always talk about, that's how you're finding those positions. That's how they're connecting you with them that may or may not be online that you haven't found. We've got the employer information sessions that we are still trying to do. We've got ones that we're scheduling virtually throughout all different times of the day. Different workshops like these, our different career fairs. We did have a successful one on September 30th, and we're already talking about our spring one. And so step 3 is let's start the search. And let's look at all the different factors that we might be considering for that. Geographic region, looking by industry, by position type and job title, looking through our Handshake system, which we'll talk about in a little bit, looking at on-campus employers that are visiting or those that are doing virtual sessions for us during this time, and any of our other online resources that you're either finding through the Career Development Center or another system. And so places to search, we've got Handshake. For those of you that don't know, Handshake is our online job board and employer directory that all current students and alumni have access to. We are a part of a nationwide network that we approve the positions for our students to be able to see. They've been vetted by a particular set of I'm completely and totally losing my wording on this. Our coordinator of employer relations vets them out based off of whether they meet a certain amount of criteria for them to be shared. But it's also an employer directory, and so you can use it to search nationwide positions and nationwide companies. These organizations are in Handshake knowing that they want to connect with college students and graduates. That right there makes it an extremely reputable resource because, again, we are vetting those, and it is this network that we're working with other colleges. We also have Career Shift, which is by far one of my favorite research tools that we have in our office for job searching. You have to create an account using your Flagler email address or your alumni email address. And it is a job search tool that pulls postings online. So job boards, company websites, anywhere on the World Wide Web into one location for you. You get to set the parameters. So you could put a zip code and say, I want to look at 50 miles within that zip code. You could say that you want to look at just temporary or contract work, entry-level positions or internship positions. And I absolutely love how it brings up a bunch of different jobs based off of the keywords that you've put in. Similar to Indeed. However, I feel like with Indeed, we have to sift through what's legit and what's not legit. Whereas Career Shift, I feel like brings a lot more valid and real positions for us to look at. You can save them to your profile, but you click on the link and it brings you directly to wherever that posting is. So again, it might be a company site or it might be another job board. LinkedIn, as we talked about last week, is another great job search tool. The more that you put in your profile, the more that it will make recommendations off of jobs for you. As I always shout from the rooftops, my sister-in-law, my father-in-law, and my brother have all gotten jobs off of LinkedIn recommendations and off of their ability to make connections off of LinkedIn. So that works, absolutely. So 80% of jobs are not found online. Huge statistic. It goes back to what we were talking about with the power of networking. And so I want you to think about who is in your network, who is in your back corner that can help advocate for you. Is that your professors? Is that your peers? And by thinking about your peers, I know it's that your classmates or your friends may or may not have positions for you right now, but their network might. And so it might be their family members, or it might be their own positions that they have that could open up things. Think about it that way. Current and past supervisors and coworkers, we never want to burn a bridge. family and friends, and then, as I say all the time, our Flagler alumni. Once you've graduated, we've got the Flagler Alumni Association group on LinkedIn. You can also definitely connect with our office. We can work to make sure that your resume looks really good, and then you can reach out to our alumni office to see about those connections. But your first stop is typically with our office with that. Where can you network? So Career Expos and different networking fairs. We've got our employer sessions that are virtual right now. They are there wanting to meet with you. If we are scheduling them, that means that they are excited to offer something for you. Campus and community organizations, as we mentioned, your online network, and then who are you connecting with on a daily basis? I've got a little kind of chart here that I like to share with individuals of, who's in your network and how can we actually now start to write names down. When we write a name down, it makes it a bit more real. And then it means that I can actually maybe possibly reach out to them. So going back to faculty, peers, current and past supervisors, family and friends, any employers that you've been connecting with through any of those different systems, and then your alumni. Utilizing that Flagler network through LinkedIn is huge. I feel like I've been saying that word a whole lot because it is so important and big. If you go to the Flagler College LinkedIn page, in the menu bar that's on the left-hand side, you'll see an alumni button right there. And you'll be able to see, last I checked, I think it was close to 15,000 Flagler alumni that are listed on LinkedIn. You can then search and filter by where they live, their company, what they are doing, or my personal favorite is what they studied, because I like to be able to say for our sport management students, let's go ahead and find those other sport management graduates because they went through the exact same thing that you went through. Maintaining your network during your job search is extremely important. Send thank you notes, especially if you've had any conversations like through those informational interviews. Now is the time to reach out via LinkedIn and have some of those conversations either over Zoom or FaceTime, Skype, Google Hangout, Teams, have a phone call, anything like that. And then occasionally checking in, provide some updates to those that were in your network that have helped you, because who knows, they might have temporarily forgotten that they had an amazing conversation with you. You check in with them again, and all of a sudden you're at the top of their mind, and then they're able to advocate again for you. Ask for their advice. Let's see what they say. Do you have any more tips? Especially if they're in the industry that you want to go into, is there anything that I could be doing now? Are there skills that you would recommend I take the time now to build? Ask a question. Could you tell me more about these types of positions? Could you tell me more about what the future of your company looks like? That could be maybe perhaps a slippery slope right now, because I think people are so nervous about what the future of their company looks like. But if you're showing your interest in it, that's showing that you're passionate about something and that you're coming from a place of care. And it's speaking volumes about your character. Staying organized is big. You can create a spreadsheet. I always say I love a good spreadsheet. And so if you want to organize who you're applying to and where and how, listing the position, company, if you have a contact name or an email address, the date you applied, if there's been an interview, add that date in there, set yourself a follow-up, and then the status, where you're at. That can also create some ease for you as you're looking, at how many places you're applying to and what that looks like. So let's go back and kind of do a review on some things. So knowing yourself, what kind of opportunity do you want? What do I know for sure that I want from an experience? And what do I know for sure that I don't want from an experience? Let's look at knowing your fit. Where do you want to work? How do I know that that will be a good fit for you? And how will I know that this is the right fit? Kind of two ways to look at that. And then start the search. Is where are you going to search? Are you going to search utilizing social media outlets? Are you going to search using company job boards? Are you going to search using some of the other tools that pull together different things? So let's go ahead and dive and take a little bit of time to dive into what this COVID world looks like right now. So I've got some tips, I've got some mistakes to avoid, and then we'll go through some of those different companies that we know that are hiring during this time. And so I did pull from another institution some helpful tips that they had added to their website. I do like to give credit when I have utilized some of their own resources. But let's look at some helpful tips to navigate that job search during your COVID-19. Be ready for the hiring process to take a little bit longer. I've spoken to quite a few students and recent graduates about this during this time, is that it is taking longer than expected. I think that's because of so many different factors, but patience is going to be key during this. Expect to apply for 5 to 10 times the number of jobs that you had planned to before. We're going to talk about mistakes, and one of them was making the mistake of applying too much, and that it's this quantity over quality. And I still think that that's very important and absolutely something to consider. But knowing that you will be applying for a bit more right now than you would have, know that it's going to be a little bit more time consuming. Set aside time each day to search and apply for jobs. Finding a job is a job. You hear that all the time. You hear finding a job is easier when you have a job. And so I like to tell people, if you really like to enjoy hanging out at the beach or hanging out outside, set aside some time with your laptop or your phone or a tablet or anything like that, and sit by the beach and job search and start to save some of those positions that you're finding. Just as you set aside time, hopefully, for your classes or for any other projects, set aside some time for this, because it is a big job and it is a big project. Keep your online profile updated. That can sometimes we'll set it up and then we totally forget about it. Keeping it up to date, as we talked about with LinkedIn. If you have a website, you always want to keep that updated, especially if it says that you will be graduating and then graduation has passed and it still says that you're getting ready to graduate. It's a missed opportunity if somebody searches for you and sees that you're still perhaps a student. Make sure your social presence reflects you in the best light. With job searching, I tell people, Google yourself. See what comes up. Don't be nervous about what comes up, but please Google yourself. Before I forget, if anybody does have any questions, make sure that you're typing them out. I'd be more than happy to bring them on up, but don't be shy about any questions. Use online job search sites such as Handshake and LinkedIn, as we've been talking about. Be willing to take a temporary job to demonstrate your abilities. That's just exactly what we talked about with Amazon a little bit earlier. Tailor your cover letter and your resume specifically to what you're applying to. We talked about that at our resume workshop earlier this semester, and then we talked about it again at our cover letter workshop earlier this semester. When you take the time to tailor it and add a specific name, a specific job title, a specific company, then they know that you've went that extra step to make it for them. That sets you apart from somebody else who's just using a template. Set job alerts with each of the online search engines. Have them do a little bit of the work for you, since this is going to seem like a full-time job in and of itself. Practice a virtual or phone interview before any actual one happens. Even if you don't have anything set up, take time to practice. This whole virtual world is weird for some of us. In a class presentation earlier today, I was talking to communication students about how we sometimes rely on that ability to knock their socks off in an interview, because I get to be in person with them and I get to talk to them. And all of a sudden, talking is totally different when we are on a computer. So practicing that. For me, I thrive on the ability to interact with people in person. So this virtual world has really thrown my own communication skills, especially for those of you that you're on different systems. See yourself. So all of a sudden, you're staring at yourself instead of staring at the ones that you're interviewing with. Hone your elevator speech. Practice telling that story over and over again. I do believe that we've got an interviewing workshop that's coming up here soon for our workshop Wednesdays. So we'll dive a whole lot more into that. And then research the companies that are hiring. That might save a little bit of time and some anxiety for you, is if you've got your heart set or your mindset on a certain type of company or a certain industry, and because of what we're going through right now, they are not hiring. That can take away some of that frustration and time that you may have spent looking for them. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about mistakes. These things are big that I want you to avoid. Coming across as desperate. That goes back to that quantity over quality, is I want you to think about how much you're applying to, and don't make it seem like you are that desperate candidate, even if you are. I know especially now that can seem really daunting, but you are coming across as confident, and we're going to build that confidence together. Applying for multiple positions with the same company. This is something that sometimes we have a company in our minds and we know that we want to work there and we know we would be so good. And so we see positions and we're like, I'd be good at that. Or I know I could be good at that one too. And so I'm going to go ahead and apply for all of them. A lot of times those in the companies, we can see how many applications you've filled out. So all of a sudden, your job search technique of I'm going to apply for everything that's within this company has worked against you, because as a hiring manager, I'm thinking, okay, they don't value my specific position. They're valuing the company, or they just want to be here out of convenience, or it may be that they really like it. All of a sudden, as a hiring manager, have started making a lot of judgments on you as an applicant that may or may not be true. And so if there is a company that you're very interested in, be extremely thoughtful and specific about what you apply for. Thank you. We're back on Instagram. I apologize. My connection went out there for a little bit. Don't make recruiters a part of your network. That's a mistake that if you aren't making recruiters a part of your network, they're the ones that are helping people to search for positions. So I know, especially on LinkedIn, that's an easy way. Another mistake is then just ignoring recruiters. And so if they're reaching out to you, definitely send a message back. Thank you, but no thank you is very easy to write. That's a bridge that we don't want to break. Recruiters, if they're a really good recruiter, they can recruit for a company that they may not have really great experience with the actual function of what that company is, but they can advocate for what that company does. So we don't want to burn a bridge by not connecting with recruiters, because that's a small network in and of itself. Working in looking in the usual places, that's a mistake. Think about how you can creatively look for different positions. Another mistake is thinking too long term. Always going back to that Amazon example. We might think, nope, I only want this type of position and that's all I'm going to get and that's all I'm going to look for. That may or may not work well for you for right now. And so is there something that you could gain a year of experience at? It shows your commitment to the position and the company. And then you begin job searching for something else that might be more in line with what your goals were. Because anything that you take, I know you can make it a stepping stone for a goal for later on. Another mistake is expecting an immediate response. We've already talked about it's going to take a little bit longer. And so giving them, 2 weeks to even just see your resume, giving them 2 weeks to, set up an interview or something like that. Please give them that grace. And then take some time for you. And so another mistake is not taking that time to process and rest. This can be very emotionally draining, mentally draining, especially if we're getting to that point where we're feeling desperate. And so I want you to make sure that you are taking time to process it, whether it's processing with yourself, processing with somebody in our office, processing with somebody else who's in the industry, or that can help you kind of think about what's a good way to clear your head and start fresh. So very quickly, we'll go over some of the industries that are hiring during this time. We've got large tech companies. Seasonal help. I love seeing the class of Facebook pages. I think a lot of students have been posting that their organizations and their companies are hiring, especially with the holiday season coming up. Remote work obviously is going to be huge right now, and your ability to do that. We've been looking at this concept of micro internships where companies that have kind of a small project that somebody could work remotely on, is there an ability to share that with our students to give them a little bit of experience to add to their resumes? Online learning companies. We have a lot of students that will become tutors, and they're doing it virtually just like this. And so are there other ways that you could teach somebody something if you're looking to go into a teaching or a communication profession? Food service and online grocery deliveries, that has completely and totally increased, as we know. We might see a shift, obviously, as more things open or what things look like. And so keeping that. I see a comment through our Instagram mortgage industry. Have some people reach out to those that are working in mortgage companies. That might be something that people are looking at their finances. And so are they wanting to have those conversations and potentially refinance? So thank you so much for adding that in there. Keeping the doors open for lots of different things is always so key. Any essential businesses that need to be open at all times, and are there opportunities in there? Digital entertainment, streaming, video games, all of that is happening right now. And think about what happened overnight with Zoom or with our schools and the online systems that they're using. I'm thinking even, the streaming services that we're using for some of our student activities events. Healthcare. And so the 4 areas that they talked about within healthcare were nurses, data specialists, researchers, scientists, and then communication specialists. We may or may not have programs at Flagler that set you up directly for those areas, but those are parts of healthcare without being, a doctor or something. That those industries are a business in and of itself. And is there something that you could find within there? Healthcare supply companies, cleaning and sanitation, and lastly, manufacturing and construction. And so all of these industries do have different types of positions within them. And so is it that you want to be working with your hands, that you want to be doing it, that you want to be a part of the business side of things? I will always reference Flagler for a lot of different things. We are a higher education institution, but at the end of the day, we are also a business. And so we have accountants and an accounting department. We have marketing and communication. We have all those things that help us move as a business as well, even though education is at our forefront. Whew. All right. So job searching, internship searching techniques. Hopefully you've been able to take away at least one little nugget from today. Take some time to let this marinate, take some time to let this digest, take some time to kind of figure out your game plan. And that might be today, that might be in a week, that might be closer to graduation, after graduation, or in a few months. We are here to help you along that way. I like to tell students and alumni, I am one of your biggest cheerleaders, and I will absolutely help you feel confident along the way. But I am also a third party in this. And so I am not invested emotionally and mentally as you are. So I can hopefully, when you're meeting with somebody in our office, we can help you objectively look at things. And we can help you outline things a little bit because you are so close to this process. Let us kind of help navigate some of those rough waters that are happening right now. You can reach out to us via email to set up something. We're meeting with students and alumni in person. If you're comfortable with that, we can guarantee we'll be 6 feet apart, or we're meeting virtually or over the phone. Co-curricular word for the day. Let's see. Let's go with career mash. All right. So if you're looking for co-curricular credit, I want you to go ahead and email us right here, careerdevelopment@flagler.edu. Your keyword is career mash. So go ahead and send that to us. Thank you all so much for joining. I know this was a little bit longer than we typically run, but I felt like we had a lot of information to cover. As always, if you've given some more thought to this and you'd like to talk it through, please let us know and we'd be more than happy to, work through anything with you. But as always, wishing you continued health and safety. Mask on up. Don't forget to vote because that's coming up soon. And we hope y'all have a wonderful afternoon. See ya.